Hello, good day, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. My name is Federico Hernandez. I'm super excited to be here with everyone. Today's going to be an amazing day. It is actually a sunny day in Seattle, which is great. Hopefully, and I'm so excited because we're going to talk about an amazing spirit. And I'm always sipping, and then I'm like, no, today I'm gonna drink. I'm gonna do my cocktail. They're gonna help me out. I'm gonna be more excited and have a nice caipirinha. Well, before we start, really quickly, quick intro. Everybody, welcome. Just a reminder about today's. We have to our right. If everybody who's in Crowdcast or seeing us right now through savvy.co, you know that we have on our right. We have our chat box. You can write any comments. I'm already seeing Russell. Russell, good to see you, and Joanne and Todd. Thank you so much for always supporting Savvy Network. We have people just keep on signing up, which is phenomenal. For everybody who's on Facebook, we ask you, please join us over here. Go to savvy.co because this is the best way you can participate and talk to our guest. If you have any questions during the event, there's an ask question area right below. Make sure to write your comments. Today's agenda is going to be around 30-40 minutes of our main presentation. Then we're going to share a bit about the contact information, what's coming up next. And we have our 15-20 minutes Rum o'clock Q&A. Should be the Cachaça o'clock Q&A. But let's deep dive. Today's agenda or today's meeting is discuss build a brand and event. And I feel like that because I produce festivals. First of all, we have two guests, Pete Nevenglosky, and then we have Steva Casey. Pete, who, for all those who do not know Steve, he is the co-founder of Avuá, Cachaça, Avuá, and Tiki by the Sea, and expert in brand development and innovation across the consumer spectrum. Pre-pandemic, he spent most of his time as a salesman and advocate. He's worked with brand manager as a brand for Red Bull and Danone. Actually, I asked him, do you have some Joker at your house right now?
Always.
But actually, I work with a lot of people that work in Red Bull, directly or indirectly. So what pedigrees I thought everybody just gets really well trained there. And everybody was given like free will to do whatever you want, basically. But at the same time, you had to deliver. So it was like a really cool project, at least when they came to the U.S. market. Steve on the other case, or Steva Casey on the other hand, Steva is a bartender at the Atomic Lounge in Birmingham, Alabama, right? She's a 20-year veteran of hospitality industry. Steva has held almost every job in the bar and restaurant. She's also worked in numerous projects, including Tiki by the Sea. Her cocktails, recipes, and ideas about building drinks have been published in Cosmopolitan Magazine, Mass Journals, and on CNN. When asked to explain her job, she quickly responds that it's mainly about being a good host, and you're completely right. But enough said, let me just bring them up to the screen really big so they can say hello.
Aloha.
Hey, y'all.
All right.
Pour a little to start here, you know?
Yeah, listen, I'm going to pour my caipirinha drink right now. That's what. Let me see. I just Hey Russell, I see your note. Is our connection better now? Let me know. All right. For my cocktail, I got ice. I put some sugar. Some lemon.
Oh, non-traditional.
Alright. All right, 1 second. I'm gonna get my cachaça. Hey guys, if you can guys talk a little bit about how you guys met, that would be really cool. And I'll be back in a second as I get my cachaça.
Yeah, actually, I was introduced to Steva via a mutual friend, Pam Wisnitzer, as I had done the first version of Tiki by the Sea. So Tiki by the Sea 1, I think it was 2014. And I was looking for somebody who really had expertise in the area of event coordination, et cetera. And she really only had one name to recommend, which was you, Steva. So here we are 5 years later.
True.
Theoretically doing our 6th Tiki by the Sea, we hope. But certainly keeping the message out there.
Yeah. I think that we talked on the phone for like 6 months before we actually met in person.
That probably is accurate.
Yeah.
I think we've talked on the phone 95% of our interaction.
True. True.
Excellent. All right.
All right. I'm just sipping on some over here. Tapi Noir.
All right. Russell, I think I should be good right now. I don't see myself any lagging just in case. But when you see me back, we should be good. Thanks for the heads up. All right, let's talk about rum education. Pete, if it's okay with you, and you can join us. Well, before actually let's jump into this really quickly. Pete, why the idea of starting going with cachaça, and what sparked the idea to venture in the spirit industry? You mentioned you came from Dannon, from the food industry, then you went to beverage with Red Bull, right? Mm-hmm. I'm sure you were exposed to a lot of the spirit industry with working with Red Bull. There's a lot of cross marketing. So what was the idea behind it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess spirits first was. I was living in New York for quite a while. I had a bunch of bartender friends who were exposing me to all kinds of unique things with history and production methods, really rustic, unique ways of producing base materials. And so I was already kind of keen on the space, was experimenting with cocktails, and had encountered cachaça for the first time at a random little spot in Williamsburg in Brooklyn called Miss Favela. So fun little restaurant. They did, live samba. They had a number of different cachaças, some of which were legally sold, some illegally sold. And I had this kind of moment of, why have I never heard of this? What's this about? And that was just a little sprinkling. I ended up down in Brazil with my business partner, Nate Whitehouse, and really was just amazed at the diversity. So cachaça is 500 years old, over 500 years. There are over 4,000 documented producers of it. So really the diversity of it as a category is immense. And what we get access to in the US was so limited. So that was really the impetus to kind of start the journey of, finding the producer that we would work with and building the brand that was Avuá.
And you have a slide. We have a slide about that, right? That you're talking about the cachaça is rapidly becoming a part of the modern bar program.
Right. So, caipirinha, great cocktail. But historically in the US, cachaça only made it in the 1980s. And much of what made it here was what we call industrial cachaça. So high volume, low cost, kind of burning fields when you get to it, pressing the cane whenever you can.
Is that would be like cachaça 51 or like
51, Pitu, Ipioca. Yep. So Pitu was the first to make it here. You can buy that for around $2 or $3 a liter retail in Brazil, for context. They run it through massive column stills that are multi-story. So it's huge volume production. And it's very different from artisanal cachaça, which is machete chop cane, pressed within 24 hours. We do it in 12, and alembic pot still distillation, so batch production. So, with Cachaça, historically, when it first came here, it was only the caipirinha. And there are a couple other drinks that are more prominent down in Brazil, but the cocktail movement is only more recently becoming relevant there. But we saw the way that modern bartenders, both at home and at the bar, were really experimenting, riffing on classics, taking amazing products with history and deploying them in different ways. So this photo here is from the Nomad in New York, which is a great partner account of ours, and they do really, really unique things. That's with our Ambarana aged. But in general, the concept was there's a lot of interest in spirits with authenticity and story, and there's so much depth to dig into with Cachaça, and maybe we could be a conduit for that.
If we talk about a little bit of mention about you have this slide, which is Cachaça 101, and it's a basic education of what we need to learn, right?
Right. So starting at the beginning, it's of Brazil, so it's an appellation, has to be made there. We have earliest evidence of production in 1516, so literally predating molasses-based rum production in the Western Hemisphere by 100 years. And so it's of Brazil, anywhere in Brazil. There are certain appellations within that, but macro level has to be produced there. It's from cut, pressed, fermented, distilled cane. So it's not a molasses-based product. Therefore, it's going to be earthier and drier. And that's kind of where, for a layman, we would describe it as somewhere between rum and tequila, in a sense of it's got that fresh cane vibes. And I know a lot of people that'll be viewing this understand agricole, understand the depth of all that. So that's a little bit kind of simplistic, but it is to say it's drier, it's earthier, it's got a grassier element, but it still has the cane base and reference.
You traveled to, when was the first time you traveled to Brazil? And then you're like, oh, I'm gonna start with Cachaça, and then there's a lot of fun things to do in Brazil. Of course, drinking Cachaça too.
Yeah. So the first time we made it there was probably 2010, and then we really became fascinated with the category and traveled down in 2011 with the intent of trying as much Cachaça as we possibly could. So we literally spent 6 weeks traveling around Brazil, Rio State, Minas Gerais, Sao Paulo, getting to taste and meet as many people as we could. So that was, just showing up at distilleries, kind of like with a small amount of broken Portuguese words. A friend of a friend of a friend took a week off and drove us around. I mean, my best friend wouldn't do that for me, but that's just it's kind of a very Brazilian mentality. Like, he thought the mission was cool. He was excited by what we were doing. He wanted to show this amazing product to us. So we ended up meeting, I think it was about 40 distillers, tasting tons of that. We snuck 50 bottles back in a suitcase, of which 47 made it.
That's a very good percentage.
Pretty good ratio. Yeah. And we blind tasted those with bartender friends in New York. We fell in love with the producer who makes Avuá. So it's a third generation woman distiller named Cachaça Espírito Santo. And her farm is Da Quinta, which is in the state of Rio, about 4 hours outside of the city. So it really was, it was an initial interest, and then it was a side project. And we were like, let's see what happens. You never know. And there were some things that happened along the way that were really positive reinforcements of what we were doing. And at a certain point, we said, fuck it. I don't know if I could say that on here, but I did. Let's just go for it. Let's quit the day job. Let's give it a go on this thing. And see if we can make something meaningful for this category in the US and beyond.
Exactly. And you were, at that point, you were still working with Red Bull or no?
Yeah, I actually worked for Red Bull for a year after we launched it.
Yeah, it's okay. I actually, I don't think that they don't even, as long as you do your job, right? You're doing what you need to do.
Right. I will say, whatever your feelings on the product, super cool organization, great people. They were all very supportive. I still stay in touch with some of the people there who were mentors of mine. And yeah, they were. It's a good culture, and it was about delivering your work at a high level, and it wasn't necessarily about clocking in and clocking out per se.
I'm a big fan of Red Bull. I've since I saw it since very young in Europe to today. I drink it rarely. I usually, when I'm driving, I'm like, I'm gonna drive like 6 hours or 4 hours.
Yeah.
I need to, like, by law, like, it's mandatory that I'll stop at a gas station, get my 2 Red Bull Light for $5, and then let's keep on driving. And I'm like, I'm super happy.
Right.
All right, so let's go to the next slide, so you can tell us a little bit more, and then deep dive. You said her name is Espiritu Santo. Katia Espiritu Santo. Wow,
yeah, exactly. What a name, right? Yeah, not like Nevenglosky. So it's single estate production. A lot of what we do is really, it's about the product and the integrity of the product. We built a brand, and how we present it is also very meaningful, but all the cane is grown on the farm. So the farm is about 4 hours outside the city of Rio. There are 5 types of cane that we utilize. They're all hybrids. So there are thousands of types of cane for anyone out there who's not aware. And it really depends on what grows best in the place. So where we are, it's cattle country, it's hill country, very remote. You'll barely get internet there 1 or 2 days a week. Power will go out for a couple days. And so the way you produce is really rooted in the old ways. And it happens to be as such. And it turns out that's really the best way. So the cane is grown there. We work with Cachaça, super passionate, would never put out anything that she didn't completely stand behind. So for us, we always trust that anything we bring out is going to have her stamp of approval behind it. So we have a range of, it's actually now 4 indigenous wood aged and soon to be a special release I'll talk about a little later. But we have 7 marks of Avuá out there. And it really plays on this deep tradition of aging in unique woods in Brazil. So that photo right there is actually an Ambarana barrel, which is a native wood in the Tiki family. There are 30 plus types of wood that Cachaça is aged in as a category.
Wow.
No other
30,
category.
You said 30, 30.
More than 30. Not us, but macro, right? Mm-hmm. So the first was French oak, and it would be taking barrels from the coastal regions where Cachaça was produced into the rich interior mining areas as a happy accident, like simply using French oak barrels as storage, realized it has an impact on flavor. And I describe the Brazilian mentality as kind of the anti-French mentality, in a sense of, oh, we have these woods, let's do it. Let's see what happens, right? Whereas it's like, it's not prescribed. It's very open mentality as a culture, and resulted in this amazing experimentation. And so, we were really the first people to bring that to the US. I'd highly encourage anyone who's an aged spirits drinker to get their hands on some of this stuff, because it's truly amazing what the same base distillate does in different wood executions.
I have to say, something that I like and appreciate about the Brazilian industry around Cachaça is that they have, as you it was a perfect example. They're open to try different type of oak woods or different types of
right.
And it's not like it can only be American oak wood. It can only be Spaniard, and then they're experimenting. And I've seen it in your expressions. I've seen it in other friends that have Cachaça brands, and it's just amazing. And the more you play around, you're gonna experiment. It could go one way or the other. It tastes good or it tastes well. Right. And then that you can fix and make it taste amazing later on. Right. Which is awesome.
Yeah. I mean, it's to me, it's very odd that we only use oak to age spirits. Mm-hmm. It's just tradition, but it's not to say that others aren't meaningful. And in particular with our Amburana age, which is about a third of our business, we've really seen people starting to play around with that. So Whistle Pig did a Amburana finish release.
Oh, wow.
I know Plantation has some Amburana barrels. I haven't tasted what they've done with it. I know the Japanese whiskey producers are really starting to experiment with different woods, because where you don't have a regulation where it has to be X barrel for X time and what have you, why not, right? Like, to me, this is a really unique frontier that has been happening in Brazil for hundreds of years, but now finally the world is starting to discover and look at some of these different applications.
Well, hopefully a few years from now, your son, my son, or maybe my son and your daughter. No, I'm kidding. They're talking about how old school we are and how new school they are, right? And how the aging process is, right? And like, how does this people make it?
I don't doubt it, man. Yeah.
Or I didn't clarify. It could be the other way. It could be your son with my daughter. It happened. Okay, let's go to
let's keep it moving here.
Let's keep it moving.